Today, we honor the birthday of a man who built a bridge of the truth and justice across the ocean. His name was George Washington William. He was a Black American man who was a veteran, a pastor, a historian, but his most biggest legacy was his done for the Congolese people. George Washington Williams in 1890, he traveled to the Congo Free State, who was ruled by Leopold II. He traveled there because the Europeans told him there were a lot of progress they did in the Congo. So he was an historian, he was a traveler. So he went there to see the big progress and the civilizations the Europeans, they told him they built there. But once he arrived there, the progress they told him they built was absolutely a lie. What he saw was a living hell for the Congolese people. He saw torture, amputations, hands of children's men amputated, all villages destroyed, burned down, slavery, and his conscience would not let him be silenced after the horror he saw in the Congo. So George Washington Williams wrote an open letter to the Europeans, specifically to Leopold, telling the horrors what had been happening in the Congo. Was the first letter, open letter to the public to explain what had been happening in the Congo. In that moment, he became the first activist to talk about the atrocities happening in the Congo. An African American man is the one who was the first activist to talk about openly across the world about what was happening in the Congo. He fought for the civil rights. He fought for his people back in America, for his Black people back in America. He traveled across the world to travel to Africa to see his brothers and his sisters if they had a better life. And what he saw was horror. So he's the first person, first activist to speak openly, and he didn't care about the consequence because what he saw was that horrific that he couldn't be in silence. George Washington Williams, he told us our struggle is connected. Without the evidence and the photographies George Washington Williams took in the Congo to demand to Europeans to do something what we've been doing, the atrocities they've been doing to the Congo. Without him, we could have never known what happened in Congo. So today we honor his birthday and his courage to expose to the whole world the atrocities happening in Congo. Unfortunately, the work of George Washington Williams until today is not done because the Congolese people, the Congolese children, is still struggling, is still being killed, is still being tortured, is still being abused, is still being a slave. The work almost more than 100 years ago George Washington Williams did for the Black people until today is not done. The Congolese people is still struggling, specifically in the eastern part of the Congo. Today we honor the memory of that great man who openly spoke about what has been happening in Congo. And today we remember his memory and the memory of the people, the Congolese people we lost on the way. Not just the Congolese people, the Black Americans who fight for his freedom. Because George Washington Williams fight for his people in America, he fight for his people in the DRC, in the Congo.